At InDigital, we know that public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESINet goes beyond industry standards, not only i3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be episode 571 of Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services, and a big shout-out, as always, to subscribers of the podcast, but all of you who are here watching, listening, supporting, and sharing. Thank you so very much. This is going to be the continuation of my time out in North Carolina a few weeks ago, and we just had an epic, powerful, and emotionally intense Imagine Listening session. And this is the follow-up. As always, there's an open mic. When I first started Imagine Listening, I didn't want the entire peer support session to be all emotionally intense. I wanted there to be some lighter stories as well. That's why, the first 30 is the powerful, hard, gut-wrenching stories, but also powerful saves as well. And then the last 30 minutes is open mic, the lighter side of dispatch, and some of the funny and outrageous calls that we end up getting out there as well. And I always have to point out that when you hear these stories, there's no laughter, or it's not any of the callers or anything that that's being made fun of or anything like that. That's not what this is about. Laughter is good medicine, but we're not laughing at these people who are calling in. What we're laughing about is the situation, because every one of us has been in a situation that is just funny and outrageous. We're like, is this real life? Is this really happening? Yes, it is really happening. This stuff really happens. And that is what we're talking about, because what we do is very important. This is an important job, an important profession. And the last thing I want is for anyone to think anything otherwise. So it's the situation that we find humor in. And also, if we didn't have some sort of dark humor in what we do, or other professions like this that deal with lives, just ask any of them. People will be burning out quicker than anything else. So laughter is good medicine. That's what this is all about. And I hope you enjoy this next portion. Again, this is episode 571, but this is going to be an open mic session with a live audience where we are sharing the lighter side of dispatch. So without further ado, here is episode 571.
There is no one over here to cook our lunch. We are waiting for our lunch, and there's no one here to cook our lunch.
All right, calm down. Where are you at?
That's not home. So what are you going to do?
We'll get some help over there for you, okay?
Welcome to Believe isn't.
It's a real call. It's out of Indiana.
Because laughing is good medicine.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are about to start an open mic session. We just finished a powerful and emotional Imagine Listening portion, but now we are going to share the funny side of 911, and I'm here in North Carolina, and I'm with a live audience. Let's hear it. All right, so as I said earlier, it takes one story for them to all go downhill. So, and also not all of the funny stories are going to be in the episode because some of these stories are just meant for us in this moment in time. So, who has a funny story they would like to share? All right, awesome. Okay, I'll go here and then back over here. Here we go. I'm excited.
Okay, so I don't even know how long into the job I was. This little old lady, it was like 11 o'clock at night and I was about to get off work. And so I answered the phone. I was like, one more call is fine. This little old lady, she calls. She's like, there's a girl on my iPad. She needs some help. And I was like, okay, well, like, you know, what's going on? She's like, she's making all kinds of noises and this guy's doing stuff to her. And I don't know what's going on. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it's stuck. I can't get out of it, but she needs help. I said, do you know where she is? She was like, no. And like I assume somebody pulled up something, adult content, on her iPad, and she was really, really concerned about this girl. And I told her really, there wasn't much I could do. I couldn't send nobody if she didn't know where she was, but I told her I could send her an officer, and I think I sent her an officer to help her with the iPad issue.
I'm going to be honest. When you were saying at first something was stuck, I was like, wait a minute, this was on an iPad, right? Like, well, I'm just saying because there's been a lot of people who've shared stories where things are, anyway. Well, okay, here we go.
All right, so this happened before I signed off. I was still in academy. It was our first night out on the floor. I was with another dispatcher that was taking calls that night as I was listening. And so we get the call. It's these people in downtown Raleigh. They're going to church, and they found clothes folded up, a needle, a spoon, paraphernalia sitting there at the doors. And as we're talking, it come to find out they found the person that everything belongs to leaning up against the church, buck naked. So we start sending help out, and as the call continues, we find out that he is very stoned. He gets up and wants to do karate against the people. And then as we're talking to these poor churchgoers, next thing we know, he's walking around, still naked, hugging everyone, saying, thank you for coming. And then started doing cartwheels in the middle of the courtyard. And that's about the time Fire EMS showed up.
Oh, my Lord.
So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I mean, you know, when you're in this profession and you hear someone telling a story, and I think it's because this is what we do when we're taking the calls, you're piecing together the pieces, so the visual is just there, and it's like, oh, wow. All right. Okay, I'll go here, and then I'll come over here.
I took a call from an elderly lady who was sitting outside of the Aldi in her car, and she was freaking out because she was locked inside her vehicle. Nice. She could not, for the life of her, figure out how to get out of the car. So we went through a couple of scenarios, and then I said, well, have you tried the door handle? And she goes, oh my God, I think you just saved my life. So the door opened, and I told her to take her keys and go inside and find an employee and hand him her keys until officers could get there for a check on welfare.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Thank you.
I did. Saved a life.
I was working one night, and I was on the phone with, I'll say officer. I was on the phone with my officer discussing a call that he had been on, and then all of a sudden my officer starts screaming 1050, 1050, and I'm like, are you on the scene of another 1050? He's like, no, I just had a 1050 with a really big bird. I said, I beg your pardon? He's like, and this is up towards the beach area. And I'm like, you just 1050'd. He said, yes. I said, what'd you say you 1050'd with? A bird. And I said, okay. And so I was just, and the next thing I know, he calls me back when he gets done. I call his, superior officer, and I tell him what he says. He said, what did you say he said he 1050 with? And again, I told him what he said he 1050 with. So when he got done with the call, I called back and I said, what kind of big bird in the middle of the night did you 1050 with? He said it was a really big buzzard. So I guess it flew up when he saw the car, and it went right through his windshield and almost.
Holy moly! Okay, does this happen a lot? With, not just in this state, but like all over the United? I'm just saying with officers because
typically.
When I was first working at the Central Dispatch, we had a trooper yell out over the radio, "Oh shit!" And that's not like something you want to hear over the radio, right? Especially the way he yelled it. So we're like, "Are you okay?" We're checking his status and everything. And he goes, "This effing emu," like he said, like the actual word. He's like, "This effing emu jumped over my cruiser." And I was like, "An emu? Plus FCC? Are you listening?" No, nobody. They don't. Yeah, but that was what ended up happening. He was by this exotic farm or something, and there was emus that got out.
But apparently there was something in the roadway, I guess, and when the car's lights come around, it's the bird, and it went through the windshield.
Oh man.
So that was not a pleasant call for my son.
I bet.
Okay, so I received a call one evening from a young lady, and she was kind of in a panic, and I took it for what it was from the beginning. When she got on the phone, she screamed. She said, "My baby eyes are not blinking." So it kind of hit me like, huh? Because your first instinct is like, did I just hear what you just said? And she was, yes, my baby eyes are not blinking. So I didn't really know what code to use for my baby eyes are not blinking, so I just dropped the 26 and went with it. I'll go through the protocol. How old is the baby? Male or female? She's going through the whole process of, okay, so I send whoever I need to send, they get there. And I was so curious about the call. What do you mean your baby eyes are not blinking? So I go back in the call about an hour later to find out what's going on with the call. So I'm reading the comments as they put in the comments in the call about what's going on to find out what happened to the baby. It was a baby doll. And
yes.
Yeah, it was a baby doll. It was literally a baby doll. And so I'm like imagining when I was a little girl, I remember we had the baby dolls, the eyes would move.
Yes.
But they would stay open if the baby is laying flat. If you move the baby's eyes would blink.
Yes.
So it was literally a baby doll.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. I love it.
That is hilarious. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So next time, just tell them to lean the baby back.
Yeah, just pick the baby
up. So I had one when I was on training, and my trainer even said that this was she's never even heard of this. This guy had called 2 or 3 times, and he wasn't given an address, and he was kind of out of it. We suspected he was probably on drugs. He was at a bus stop, and people had kept hanging up with him, so he kept calling back. And when I got on the phone with him, he's like, "Don't hang up on me." And he's talking about these people in the woods. These people in the woods are coming for him, and they're watching him, and this burgundy car down the road is watching him. And every time I'm like, "Okay, sir, we have help on the way. I'm going to disconnect now." He's like, "No, please don't get off the phone with me." And he's like panicked. And at this point, my trainer is so upset. She throws off her headset. And I'm on the phone for like 20 minutes with this guy. And they send a K-9 unit because he was just down the road. So they send a K-9 unit, and he's like, "Yeah, he's T96. Just send an ambulance." It's night shift. I go home. And then I get a text from my trainer. When the ambulance finally found him and came and picked him up, he decided to start smoking drugs in the back of the ambulance. So then they had to pull the ambulance over and send out another unit to pick him up to take him off.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
People are ballsy, man. Like,
Right?
wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, we suspected drugs, but.
Oh. You know, in every state there that I've done this session, there's always something new, like the one that you mentioned with the doll. And I'll say this really quick before I come over here to you. There was someone in Wisconsin who was sharing a quick story, and they said, yeah, you know, this lady called in, and she goes, there's this pig that's in the middle of the road. You need to get somebody out here to move it because, you know, something's going to happen. And they're like, oh, okay. So, you know, they're putting it out for like obstruction of the road, you know, animal running around or whatever. They put it out over the air, and an officer keys up and goes, Central, there's no one around here but me. Oh! And they're like, cancel animal control. I'm the only person that's out here in the middle of the road. And I thought, oh, right. Thank you, Wisconsin. Like, that was something.
So this call starts out with a girl saying that she wants to have her her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend arrested. So of course I say, tell me exactly what happened. And she says, so I have an OnlyFans. Do you know what that is? So I gotta put myself on mute for a second and take a breath. I'm like, yes, I know what that is. She proceeds to tell me that the ex-girlfriend of her current boyfriend was posting clips of her content on Facebook. Now, she wasn't upset that everybody was seeing it. She was upset and wanted her arrested because nobody was paying for it.
Oh, snaps.
Yeah. That was a fun. I'm like, okay, I'll have an officer call you.
Gotta get compensated.
Thank you.
One of you has to tell the story when you asked, like, describe the suspect.
Okay, now you have to, the way the both of you just...
We both have had one where it's... we talk about the domestic one or the... He looks like an asshole.
That he looks like that's from your previous...
Yeah, so at my other agency, at the front, we had a window, and a guy comes in, and he was so drunk I could smell him through this window. And I'm like, okay, he wanted to make a complaint about an officer. That's the only way people could do it. They had to come to the station. And I asked him which officer was it. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, I know all these guys. Describe him to me. Well, he looks like an asshole. And I'm seriously like, okay. So I call the sergeant. I'm like, hey, call me on the phone because I can't give him that description over the radio, obviously. And so the sergeant comes into the station, and he's talking to the guy for a couple minutes, brings him into the interview room. And I slowly see him, like, this guy they had baseball caps with their badge on it, and he was wearing glasses. And I see him, like, start to take off his glasses, and he takes off his hat. And he's talking to the guy for a little bit, and then he starts yelling at him and throws him out of the station. He doesn't literally throw him, but he tells him to get out. And then he comes back in, and he's laughing. The guy was so drunk, he didn't recognize that he was complaining to the sergeant. He was the officer that he wanted to complain on. And of course, I looked at my sergeant. I went, well, he was right. You do look like an asshole.
Oh, dude. Well done. Well, thank you. So we got time so I'm going to share 2 stories here, and then you can go to lunch, and then we'll come back around 1:30. So along with, before the main story, along with some of the calls and everything that I hear about in Wisconsin or any other state where Imagine Listening and Open Mic is going on, when I first started doing this class and I added Imagine Listening and Open Mic into it, I was in Ohio, okay? I was in Ohio, and I'm on stage doing this part, and there's a gentleman sitting in back who's like, I got a story to share. I don't want to bring down the room. And I'm like, well, this is the funny part. It's all right. You know, you'll be all right. Go ahead and share your story. And he's like, okay, well, I want to preface this with the fact that my brother was brutally murdered and dismembered when I was growing up, and I'm standing there on stage looking, and all the audience is looking at me like, stop this, or like I don't know what to do, because this is not what I expected this guy was going to say. And I'm just looking at him, and he's like, hold on, hang on. I was like, okay, all right, I'm holding on. And he goes, years later, he goes, I'm in dispatch. And my captain, my supervisor, is sitting behind me, and I get a 911 call, and it's the guy who did it. And I went, what? And everyone, like you can hear everyone go, like, huh? Because then we were also thinking, how is this person out of prison, right? And then he says the person didn't do the actual murder part, just the dismemberment. So this person ended up getting, I don't know how many years for abuse of a corpse or something like that. And I'm like, okay, go on with your story. And he goes, this guy is calling in on 911, and my supervisor knows who I'm talking to. The reason he calls on 911 is because someone broke into his house and stole his flat screen TV. And he's complaining about the price of the TV, how expensive they are. And without skipping a beat, I ended up responding to the guy, and I said, yeah, I hear it costs an arm and a leg. Bro, what? That eruption just now, that's exactly how the room was, because it was like a pin drop. And then at that moment, it was like, ha, ha, ha. But I look over at the guy, and he goes like this, and I said, I usually have something witty to say, like, I don't even know what to say to you, sir. Like, I don't know what to say. And he's like, oh, yeah. I was like, all right, well, that one is, yeah. So, final story here before we go on lunch. And this is something that happened to me in dispatch, obviously, years ago. When I was working at the Central Dispatch, we had, it was 3 12s and a 4 that we did. They don't do that anymore. They moved to the Sheriff's Department now, their schedule, and they do 8 hours. But at that time, that 4-hour was on a Wednesday. So I was working, I was going to be working 1A to 5A. And I'm driving into dispatch for this shift. I stop at a gas station. Need to get something to munch on, something to drink. It's midnight shift. Need that caffeine, right? So I'm walking around. I pick up a sugar-free 12-ounce Red Bull, okay? And I'm walking around looking for something to eat. I'm like, oh, you are mine. This is going to be, I'm taking it with me. It was a gas station burrito. And it's called the Red Bomb. You can look it up. I didn't realize that was potentially going to be my future, okay? So, and no, my diverticulitis was not because I had a Red Bull and a burrito. So I know, it could be, right? It could have been years later, it finally caught up to me. So I go into dispatch, I get there early enough so that I can heat up the food, eat it, drink my Red Bull, and be ready to go. I'm thinking that I'm going to be on backup phones and radios. I'm the supervisor that night, but I'm on main phones. And I was like, you know what, whatever. I'm ready for the night. Let's do this. Get everything, get briefed, sit down, destroy that burrito. Oh my God, it was so good. And then I take down the Red Bull, and I am ready to go. I'm happy. Let's do this. Phone call comes in, and it's from the county just south of me. And wait, where's she at? Kalamazoo. Right there. It was Kalamazoo County who called in. Yes. Kalamazoo County calls in, and they're like, hey, we need you to put out a BOL. Be on the lookout. Depending on what region you are in the state, it's either BOL or BOLO. So same thing. Be on the lookout. We're chasing someone, and they're getting close to the county line. We want you to put it out in case we get there. I'm like, all right. Start typing, putting stuff out and stuff for the person across for main radios to put it out. And oh no. My stomach starts bubbling, and I'm like, no, this is not happening right now. And I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to the person, and I'm getting that bubble gut. If you've ever had that bubble gut before, when you eat something, and it just starts talking to you, I'm like, hell no. Like, this cannot be happening right now. I'm having my own emergency while I'm talking during this, and I'm sweating at this point. That's how much I was in pain. I was over there by myself. If anybody would have been over there with me, they probably would have smelled like beef or something. Like, that's how much I was sweating out of my pores. Like, it was that bad. And I'd already sent my partners a message that said if I needed to leave to use the restroom, to take over the call. Because I don't know about your center, but my center, we had a bathroom within the center, right? And I wasn't about to drop heat there with my friends, okay? And then down the hall is the locker room. That's what I wanted. I wanted the privacy. So I'm going through the call, and it's finally, I cannot take it anymore. And I'm like, I got to put you on hold really quick, put him on hold, stand up, yell across the room, and I'm like, I have to run down the hall. Haul ass running so fast you could probably see smoke, hopefully smoke, nothing else, right? Because that's how much pain I was in. I run over, do my thing, come back. I'm like, all right, I'll take the call again. So I'm on the call, and I'm going through this, and my stomach starts talking to me again. Now, sequels. Sequels are the worst, right? Sequels in movies suck. Well, in the shit world, it's the same, okay? My stomach, like, I don't know if you've ever tried to hold in gas, but it, like, starts to move up, turns into, like, a back fart, you know? And it and I'm sitting there, and I put him on hold, and I stand up, and as soon as I stand up, my buddy, John, stands up at the same time, and he goes, "You got to poop, dude?" I was like, "It's not a warrant. You ain't got to confirm it." But yeah, yes, I do have to go. So I do my thing, and I come back. Nobody's on the phone anymore. No. So here was the thing. The car kept going in circles. That's why I was on the phone for so damn long. And I'm thinking in my head, like, because they end up calling again, and I'm on the phone with them. And that's how I knew that all this was going on, because I myself was like, why is this taking forever? Like, they haven't even caught up to this person yet. They're not in. So they're like going in and out all over the place. And I'm like, throw some stop sticks down. Take this person out or something. Not like that. Like, stop the vehicle is what I meant. Stop the vehicle. Because I'm literally going through my own shit right now. Because now my stomach is starting to talk again. And I put them on hold. And I stood up and I said, I'm not going to make it down the hall. I'm going to go right here. And they're like, wait, what? I said, not right here, not literally right here where I'm standing. I'm going to use the bathroom here. And they're laughing as I go into the bathroom. So I go into the bathroom, I turn the water on, both of them. I turn the water on, turn on the fan to mask anything that because if you've ever seen the movie Dumb and Dumber, you know exactly the hell I was about to go through. And I'm like screaming in there. Like, I come out and my coworkers are laughing their asses off at me. I'm like, you know what? I'm the supervisor. I'm going to turn the heat up so that you can smell it. I did not do that. But years later, I'm on a family trip and we're going to Washington State. We stop in Montana for gas. And I'm walking through the gas station, and as I'm walking, I get this like kind of weird twitch that's oddly familiar. And I look over to the right, and I swear the cooler is full of Red Bomb burritos next to a display of sugar-free Red Bulls, and all I could think was, screw you, Montana. That's my story. That happened to me in dispatch. My kids have said to me, Dad, you actually tell all these people around the country this story about what happened to you? I'm like, yeah, it's funny. Even if it's at my expense, it's funny and it's okay, because literally shit happens, all right? It happens, and sometimes it happens in dispatch. So thank you all for what you do, for sharing your stories. Thank you for all of it.
Welcome back. And as always, like I always say, it takes one story for all of them to go downhill. And sometimes once they go downhill, especially if it starts off right off the bat, it just continues. But I had a lot of fun with everyone out there. I was out there teaching 8-hour courses. It was the same one each time, but it was a different dynamic with each group, and I just had so much fun with all of you. So thank you for everything, but more importantly, thank you for what it is that you do. Again, I had a lot of fun out there with you, a lot of eye-opening moments, a lot of learning from each other, just communication, man, communication. And it continues. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I'll mention this now. I am fresh back from Cancun, Mexico. And no, I wasn't out there on vacation. I was out there I was working. I was the keynote speaker for the Mexico NINA conference, and it's actually NINA Mexico, but it's Nena Mexico out there for 911 or 911. I heard it twice. It's 911, and some would say 911, some would say 911. Either way, the same. It's the same thing. It's 911, and it was an honor to be out there with all of you. So thank you for everything. And to Nena Mexico, to the audience, I was out there as a keynote speaker, and I shared my story and told them, put it out there, because the culture is different out there. It's not like the way it is here now. Out there, from what it sounds like, it's what it was like before for us, where it was, you take the call and you move on. And they are trying to change the culture, and they brought me in to help do that. Because one voice can make a difference. One voice can change the world. And that's what I was telling them out there. And on the fly, switching back and forth, my Spanish isn't the greatest. I know more than I think I know. I need a little more of that confidence when it's, speaking in Spanish, because I was taught English first. But just as my shirt says here, one voice, your voice can change the world, I was letting them know que una voz, tu voz, puede cambiar el mundo. Which is the same thing that I just said right now, but I was just saying it in Spanish. And I was just letting them know that, with our stories, that's how we're going to change the culture of this profession and continue to change it. Here in the United States, we've been doing this since 2016 at the birth of the I Am 911 movement, and just continuing on and on and on. And being out there and doing this with them at Nena Mexico, it was truly an honor to be there. So thank you, all of you, for that. I was telling them as well that we can change the world. Con tus historias podemos cambiar el mundo. With your stories, we can change the world. And again, I loved every moment out there. It was so much fun. And thank you all for everything, for what you do, and for Nena Mexico for bringing me out there, and my homie Juan Chapa for all of the help, man. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you. For those watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you ever want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that is going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is wttpodcast@gmail.com. And if you ever want to be a guest, as I was just saying right now, if you want to do this an easier way, very easy, just simply go to the link that's there on the screen. But if you're listening to this on audio, it is links with 2eyes.co/WTT podcast. Once again, that is links with 2eyes.co/WTT podcast. And you'll find everything there, my email, all of my social media, where to follow, where to hear the latest episode, where to purchase Imagine Listening Volume 2. And Volume 1, my version, is going to be coming out hopefully around the first a couple of weeks of December, and that's December 2024. So that's not too far now. It's October 26th, and I've got just some few last touches to put on that book, and it'll be out there. So look out for that. You can also find a link for over 250 hours of free continuing education for the profession, for 911 dispatch, and that's through the Dare to Be Great sessions, as well as many more. And if you're looking for any podcast or dispatch merchandise, once again, links with 2eyes.co/WTT podcast. And I thank you very much for everything. This can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn Live and X, and sometimes as well on Instagram and TikTok. And then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and within the trenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and I will see you all in the next one.